Will India's stock market go up even further, or will share prices start to fall?
Indian markets are overvalued. Well, personally, we have been listening to this statement when the Nifty crossed 13,000 level, and we know the rest is history. Well, these days you might be hearing about a lot of indicators that are used to value a market to determine whether the Indian markets are overvalued, fairly valued, or are undervalued. But in this video, we'll talk about that whether such indicators are really relevant in the Indian scenario, and are India markets really overvalued? While in the later half of the video, we'll talk about two such fundamentally sound stocks that you can look after to invest in the current market scenario. Well, before moving on, guys, we have a serious problem to discuss with you. Well, we were going through our channel analytics and we found out that more than 80% of our viewers are not subscribing our channel. I mean, guys, this is not a good thing because you know LearnApp is trying very hard to push such content on YouTube. So we'll request you to subscribe our channel and put it in the comment box, "Tu mera channel, main tera subscriber," and then watch on the remaining part of our video. Well, the first indicator we'll talk about is the market cap to GDP indicator, which is also referred to as the Buffett indicator. And we'll see that whether such indicator is really applicable in the Indian scenario. Well, just to calculate this indicator, I will give you a brief. We take the market capitalization of the total Indian listed companies and compare it with the GDP of the entire nation. Well, most of the investors, especially value investors, think that when this ratio crosses a 90% mark, that is, the market capitalization of the Indian companies is equal to or more than 90% of the GDP of the nation, then the stock market is overvalued. Well, we have the data for the last 20 years, and looking at the current year data, the value turns out to be 122%, which indicates that Indian markets are overvalued. But we'll give you three such reasons that why such indicator does not have the capacity to represent a complete picture of Indian market valuations. So the reason number one is, for Indian market capitalization to be compared with the GDP of the nation, it is very important that your most of the business enterprises are listed. But just to give you the data, there are 12.5 lakhs public limited companies in India and only 3,300 are listed. Also, you can look at from a different perspective that most of the profitable companies might still be in a private mode, and that's why when they will come up with their IPO, then the numerator, that is the market capitalization, is always bound to increase. That's why this is the first reason that this ratio might not represent a complete picture of the Indian market valuation. The second reason being that there is a parallel economy that is running side by side our mainstream economy. Now, this parallel economy mainly includes the unaccounted transactions, the illegal transaction, as well as the black money transaction. And as I can see here, according to a study that was conducted by the Union government for the period between 2009 to 2011, this parallel economy transactions comprises of 71 to 79% of the GDP of the country. Which means that if these unaccounted transactions are included in our mainstream GDP calculation, the denominator value will increase, and as a result, this ratio will drastically come down. And the reason number three being that this ratio was developed quite a long back ago, and now with the advent of the technology companies, the valuations are usually high because although these companies do not report any profit or sales figure, but people usually discount the future, and that's why these companies are usually overvalued. Well, because of these three reasons, we feel that Buffett indicator might not truly represent the true picture of the Indian market valuations. Well, the second indicator we'll talk about is the P/E ratio of an index. Now, this is another indicator that is used by most of the market participants. Well, we have collected the data for the last 20 years, and the average P/E ratio for the last 20 years turns out to be 20x. Now, looking at the current year P/E ratio, the value is around 31.94x, which clearly indicates that the Indian markets are overvalued. But here is the catch. If you look at the last 5 years data, the P/E ratio of the Sensex was above 20x, which means that the markets were overvalued since 5 years. Now, does that mean you stop investing for the past 5 years? Of course, the answer is no. Also, we feel that because of COVID, the earnings of the companies are quite depressed, which means the denominator value is quite low. So if the economy will come on track and the earnings of the company will increase, the denominator value will increase. And as a result, this ratio is bound to come down. So that's why we believe that this ratio does not truly represent the complete picture of the Indian market. Now, of course, you guys will say that it's always easy to point out what's not working in the market. Then what we actually need to do? Well, we can give you just one perspective to explain you how this valuation works in the Indian equities. Thus, the value of an asset is equal to the discounted value of its future cash flows, which means that if the asset is expected to generate future cash flows, you discount that cash flows at an appropriate rate to find out the present value of an asset. Thus, the value of an asset is a function of the discount rate as well as its future cash flows. So if you expect that in the future the cash flows will be higher or the interest rate in the economy will be lower, then the stock valuations are fairly priced. This entire methodology is referred to as discounted cash flow valuation, and I know this cannot be covered in a 10-minute video. That's why we have a separate end-to-end course on learnapp.com where Mr. Anando Ghosh, who is the ex-Citibanker fund manager, who teaches DCF valuation right from the scratch with his personal example. I would request you to check out learnapp.com. The link is in the description below. Now coming on to our main video. We totally feel you guys, and we understand that there is a sense of fear that is going on in the market, and the best way to remain invested in the market is to be with the fundamentally sound stocks. This does not guarantee that when the markets will fall, these stocks will not fall. However, the fundamentally sound stocks have the higher tendency to recover faster when the markets turn around. And after doing our research, we personally felt that the PSU sector has been quite an underperformer since a long time. If you look at the valuation part also, the PE ratio of the Sensex is 31.94x. When it is compared with the BSE PSU index, it just turns out to be 11.15x, which means the PSU sector is quite an undervalued sector. And also because of this disinvestment story, we feel that the investors are likely to benefit from this step taken by the government. So that's why the first PSU stock we have chosen is RITES India. So, talking about RITES India, the company undertakes various technical as well as consultancy services for Indian Railways. Also, it undertakes various infrastructure projects within the country as well as in 55 international countries. So let's start with the business model of RITES, and we personally found this very interesting. So the first segment, as I can see here, is the consultancy services, which accounts for 55% of the total revenue. So under this segment, the company undertakes various technical as well as feasibility studies for the Indian Railways. So just to give you an example, if the Indian Railways decides to set up a railway line between Delhi to Mumbai, then it will appoint RITES India to conduct a detailed analysis on this track. Now RITES India will prepare a detailed report ranging from the engineering designs, procurement services, the time that is required to complete this project, and etc. etc. The second business segment of RITES India is turnkey projects. This segment accounts for 34% of the business revenue. Now basically turnkey project means that the company will develop a project from scratch and complete it till the end. And after completion of this project, the company will simply hand it over to the client. So the client is just required to turn a key in order to start the operation of this project. So the RITES India is appointed by the Indian Railways to complete an end-to-end project. So the third segment is the leasing segment, which accounts for 6% of the total revenue. Now basically under this segment, the company leases various locomotives, various wagons to international as well as the domestic clients. And over and above that leasing services, the company also provides various maintenance services. So the fourth business segment is the export segment. Now this accounts for 5% of the total revenue. Now basically under this segment, the company not only focuses on the Indian market, but also exports various locomotives, various wagons, various spare parts to the international countries. So the fifth segment is the power generation segment. Now, this segment only accounts for 1% of the total revenue because this is an emerging segment for the company. The company is focusing on the power generation, especially in the renewables energy sector, and is also tied up with the Indian Railways for the electrification of the lines. Also, in the coming years, the company has a capex plan of 180 crores to develop a solar energy plant with Indian Railways. Thus, the company expects to generate a higher margins on this business in the future. So looking at the business model point of view, the company seems to be very interesting. But let's check out whether such interesting points are reflected in the financials of the company. So let's start with the income statement. Now, as I can see here, the export segment was the highest affected during the COVID. However, after hearing the recent management commentary, the company has recently shipped a major order, and that's why the export revenue growth is likely to increase in the future. Now, another positive thing about the company is that despite sales were being affected by the COVID, the company was able to maintain the same operating margin. This is a damn positive thing for the company. Also, as I can see here, that other income section usually forms a huge part of the company's profit. However, when we dig deeper into the notes to account, we found out that this income is basically in the form of income from other investments, and that's why this is not a red signal for the company as of now. When we analyze the company from the balance sheet point of view, we saw that the equity share capital of the company has reduced. This is so because the company recently did a buyback at a price of rupees 265. Now, buyback is usually considered a good sign for the company as this shows the management confidence on the business model of the company. Also, when looked at from the shareholders' point of view, the EPS per share of the company increases as the total number of shares in the market reduced. Also, another good thing for the shareholders is that the company is almost debt-free. Now, if we analyze the company from the valuation point of view, then I can see here that company trades at a PE range between 10x to 17x. This is fairly valued. Also, as we know that the earnings of the company are quite depressed because of COVID. However, when the earnings of the company will increase, the PE multiple will come down. Also, another striking thing we found out in the company is that the market cap of the company is around 6,600 crores. However, as we discussed, the liquid position of the company stands at around 3,652 crore. This means that the cash available with the company is almost 57% of the market cap. Now, the positive thing for the company will be that if it will employ this cash into its capex plan or the growth plan, then this will be a positive sign for the company. And also, when we talk about PSUs, we always talk about dividend yields. And as I can see here, the dividend yield as per the current price turns out to be 3.5%, which is quite decent. So this was all about RITES India. We'll now move on to our second PSU stock, which is HAL. That is Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. Now, HAL is the largest public sector unit. It's an 80-year-old company which has its operations spread across the value chain, right from the designing to development to maintenance of various aircrafts, helicopters, and various aerospace structures. Company has also tied up with ISRO to contribute to India's space mission programs. Also, the company has a moat in itself because it is very difficult for the private players to enter this industry, basically because of two reasons. Number one being it requires higher capital expenditure, and number two being the gestation period is very high in this industry. So let's start with the financials of the company. So as I can see here, the sales of the company were little affected by COVID. This shows the resilience of this sector. Also, the order book in this particular industry is a very important parameter to look after for, which is almost 2.5x of its current revenue. Also, the company has an interest coverage ratio of 20x, which means against the interest payment of rupees 1, the company equally has an earnings of rupees 20 to pay out that interest, which is a very positive thing for the company. Also, the operating profit margins of the company were 24%, and just to give you a perspective, it is higher when compared to its peers. Now, after analyzing the company from the income statement point of view, we try to analyze from the balance sheet point of view. And one good thing for the shareholder is that the company has almost become debt free and the debt to equity ratio just stands at 0.01x, which is almost negligible. Now, another major problem with the PSU stocks is that these companies are highly dependent on the government for their orders. And in case of HAL, we can see that 97% of the order book comprises the orders from the government. But despite these facts, the company is continuously able to reduce its debtor days, which is resulting in efficient working capital management for the company. Now, as I can see here, the ROCE of the company is 26%. Now, to calculate this ROCE percentage, we have also included a major chunk of rupees 7,000 crore cash in the capital employed. Now, if we remove that cash component from the capital employed and actually take into consideration the returns on the debt and equity part, then the ROCE turns out to be 48.8%, which is just insane in such a capital intensive industry. When we analyze the company from the valuation point of view, we can see here that the PE ratio of the company is around 11x, which means that the company is fairly valued when compared to its peers. Also, the cash balance as a percentage of the market cap of the company is 20%, which is another a positive sign for the company, as the company is in excess cash and the company can utilize this cash to fund its growth plans. Also, talking about the dividend yield of the company, it is just 2.68%, which is quite low, but it's decent. Well, I totally understand that to most of you, PSU stocks might sound very boring, and you are interested in actively picking stocks and building a portfolio from scratch. Well, in that case, you can check out learnup.com, where we have some courses taught by the industry leaders who are actively involved in this field since long. And you know guys, we are trying very hard to grow our YouTube channel. So please do like, share and subscribe and watch these two videos and keep supporting us. See you in the next video.